And God asked all angels and instinct, Iblis, that when I blow my soul into humankind, bow to him, all prostrated except instinct, for it believed that it controls all animals. Why should it bow to a lowly creature? Little did it know what God was referring to, the pinnacle of existence in front of whom all processes and all instincts have to submit one day. The one who will represent creation and shall be the best of mirrors of God, so much so that more representation than him is not possible. His appearance was incumbent since the beginning of existence. This man was to be born, and all the universe waited for all variables to align. Angels of evolution were at divine play. The holy breath was in the dance of self-realization. Around 570 CE, a child was born in the moonlight of Makkah, who was going to transform history as we know it. An ascetic, Kahin, priest who had spent 2 decades on a mountain in Makkah, descended from the hills early in the morning, searching door to door, inquiring if there's a child born here. Is there a child born here? And when he saw Mohammed in the lap of Amina, he exclaimed, "Behold, today all voodoo and magic has been pushed back. Today truth has triumphed over falsehood. Today light has prevailed over darkness." In those days, it was customary in Makkah to send children for early rearing to green mountains of Taif so that they become healthy and escape the heat of Makkah. But no one was willing to take this child, as any child born orphan was considered a jinx, and the incident of mountain ascetic added to it. A poor woman, Halima, accepted Muhammad because nobody accepted her services. In Taif, he learned the basic, grounded Badu Arabic and grammar of it. His presence brought prosperity to Halima's household, which surprised her. When the time to return the child came, she was reluctant to give him up. With this child around, she saw prosperity flowing to her. The udders of her cattle were full, the produce of her fields was plenty. She realized a divinity playing on her porch. The toddler's aura was evident in the village. How could she let him go? This child was special. His mother was Amina. He had spent less time with her, as was taken away to Taif. After he was brought back to Amina, he felt home in her presence. At least now he had her, the beloved mother, his world, his home, lap of the mother, the most peaceful place in universe. But soon when he was 6, Amina passed away. Look at the condition of child Mohammed. Both parents were gone when he was even to understand the meaning of misery. As a child, looked down upon for being an orphan by other children and their reluctance to play with him, Mohammed, often wondered, remained aloof. Under care of his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, his hopes restored, but alas, he too died when Mohammed was 10. A young child shepherding his sheep was looking to skies for answers, thinking and pondering and sulking on what and why is so. What was his fault that his father died before he was even born? Why is death a thing? Why do we blame and judge someone for something decided by chances and destiny? A poor doesn't decide to be born in a slum. A leper doesn't decide to be contracted by the disease, but we judge and rebuke, we oppress without remorse. What can I do to remove this condition of creation, condition of misery? Is there anything I can do? Is there an answer? All children started to remain distant from him. He would talk less, as no one was there to talk to him. He would take his sheep to the mountains of Makkah, and in that quiet, look down upon the city and wonder, why are we? Who are we? What are we for? What is our purpose? Why is there pain and suffering? Why is there inequality? What does existence mean? After the grandfather's death, his uncle, Abu Talib, took charge of him. He provided him security, lodging, clothing, and most of all, a sense of having someone to depend upon. A father figure, a guardian. Once he took young Mohammed on a business trip towards Syria. A Christian priest named Bahira, on seeing Mohammed, said to Abu Talib to return Mohammed back to Makkah. He told Abu Talib that he could recognize signs in Mohammed of a prophet, of a king, and feared that people might harm him. As he had all the signs mentioned in scriptures of Jews and Christians of a final Messiah, but he was not from them, so take him back. When the young man was around 20 years old, he was brought to Khadija, a wealthy middle-aged businesswoman of Makkah, to get a job. Khadija was quite rich, eloquent, and with varying trade businesses under her, running caravans to north extending up to Syria. She accepted Mohammed, as he was already famous for his honesty, and had acquired a name al-Amin, meaning trustworthy, for himself, being famous with this quality in all of Makkah. People used to entrust their belongings to Mohammed, which he would take care of and return back as were left. Khadija, already aware of it, without hesitation employed him. Young Mohammed had good experience of trade by looking after and taking caravans of his uncle. Abdullah bin Abul Hamza relates, "Once I entered into a business dealing with young Mohammed. The deal was not yet concluded when I had to leave for some errand hastily. But before leaving, I asked Mohammed to wait there till I return. Afterwards, I forgot about it. I returned to look after 3 days, and I found Mohammed waiting for me at the same spot. I inquired why. Why did he wait? He said, 'I promised I would wait for you, so I had to. A promise is a promise.' This is what Khadija saw in him. Mohammed would now embark on journeys, taking bigger caravans for trade across Hijaz and into the cradle of civilization, the Middle East. There he would come across all forms of philosophies floating around. Concepts from North, the Romans, and the Greek philosophies, the Persian view of existence. The Zoroastrians' enigma and outlook of reality. The Christians, the Jews, and of course the polytheists of Makkah. His illiteracy was a boon to him, as he could look into the deficiencies and inadequacies of all these concepts in an unbiased way, doubting them with every thought. This rekindled the frustration in his soul as he found all of these concepts incomplete. He found tyranny intertwined with philosophies. He found non-conclusive knowledge from Socrates to Christ. It burdened his heart. It ached his soul. Despite all philosophies and outlooks about existence wrestling in his mind, he maintained his demeanor and brought good profit to Khadija and his uncle. Khadija was watching, analyzing, and in turn losing herself to him. She had never looked at men with such importance. But here all her esteem dissolved, and she finally asked him to take her in marriage. She was 40, and Mohammed was 25 years old. Mohammed agreed, as he was also fond of her character, behavior, wisdom, and ability to manage things. It was a divine bond that was destined to happen. Later, Allah says in Quran, "For I found you an orphan and gave you shelter, for I found you poor and made you rich," referring to Khadija. She was his solace, sense of being at home at last. At last, someone to call his own, someone who cares about him as no one does. Someone who understands him as he wants to be understood. Someone who shares the misery of his heart and says to him, "It's all right, I am there for you in every condition, every hardship. I won't ever let go of you. You are my light. You are my life." For next few years, as Mohammed grew older, the frustration of not understanding the purpose of life grew along. He would often go to Hira cave to think in solitude about all the aspects, all the philosophies, all concepts, and look at Makkah from there with bewilderment. He would sulk and weep there alone, and sometimes explaining these things to Khadija, share his misery with her. Yet, Khadija would solace him, not rebuke, but encourage him that he may reach a conclusion soon, while in the cave a voice from skies spoke to him, "Read." He was afraid. On hearing a voice from nowhere, the voice again said, "Read." He said, "I don't know how to read." It again said, "Read, read, in the name of thy Lord." The voice declared to him that he has been chosen as the messenger of God. The voice declared that it was Gabriel, the deliverer of knowledge. This marked the beginning of change in the course of history as we know it. And the angel came near, embraced him and said, "The Quran relates, recite, recite in the name of thy Lord who created man from a clot, your Lord who is most generous, who taught by the pen, taught man which he knew not." Thus the first verse of Revelation, the Quran, was born. He suffered, yet remained steadfast, always wore a smile. He thought and remained wise. He honored his promises and was compassionate beyond means. He was a helper and wore mannerism as his robe. He was truthful and never spoke a lie. He absorbed anger and never let it overpower him. He listened to the needy. His soul ached for all conscious beings. He was humble and soft. There was no pride in him but compassion and mercy. God's promise was fulfilled. It was revealed to the existence why God asked for prostration to Adam. At last humanity triumphed over animal nature. Light emanates and darkness goes. Iblis was defeated. Indeed, Iblis was defeated. Who else would the Lord bestow this duty upon? Who else? O Prophet.